Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and in today's video we're going to take a look at the new engineering items in War Within. These are ones that were up on the alpha as of last build, and a lot of them are pretty cool. Now, one thing that's not in here is the potion bombs, which there was a different post about. I didn't make a video on that post, but I did discuss the concept of potion bombs in my previous War Within patch notes video, so if I'm good at my job, I'll have a little card thing, ping thing up in the top right that you can click on if you want to go watch that video. Just click to the engineering section if you want to hear a discussion of that. But let's start off by looking at this better battle res thing. So in Dragonflight, it was really difficult to get a battle res as a non-B-res class, and you had to put a tinker on bracers or helmet in theory as well, which often meant you didn't have B-res if your comp didn't have a way to hardcast it, right? War Within has convincingly realistic jumper cables, which are an item that B-reses somebody. You frighten a dead ally with the threat of an electric shock, restoring them to life with a 35% health, 10% mana, castable in combat. Sometimes you fail to make a compelling case, which means maybe sometimes they die. Or sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know. Sometimes backfiring is historically something that engineering tinkers can do, often catastrophically. So we'll see how this one works. And the three different versions, it's either or just have different cast time, the faster cast time at the higher tiers, which of course is very important for B-res. So of course the 3-star version is going to be really good. No engineering requirement on this item. We will see if it is like a better chance of backfiring or whatever, or I guess a lower chance of backfiring if you're an engineer. But even if not, this is still huge for groups, as long as it's a reasonably low chance of backfiring, to let you play potentially without a B-res class without it being too bad. Although, of course, you're still going to have to pass the threshold of people actually buying these and putting them in their bags and key binding them and remembering they have them. So those may not happen, but it's definitely a much lower bar than crafting the bracers and putting the tinker in. We have a new piece of wipe recovery as well that is the irresistible red button. Deploys a device that can be activated by you or a party or raid member when a crisis is imminent. When activated, it will attempt to resurrect all nearby allies at the end of combat. It lasts for 1 hour or until activation. Must be deployed prior to combat. Now, in War Within, this is only available to engineers, and it's also only able to be placed outside of combat, but you can likely activate it in combat, Wowhead thinks. A couple different uses for this. So an obvious use is just in a raid situation. You could just put this down and then press it as you're wiping, and it'll res everybody. That's okay. I mean, you already have Soulstone mass res for those sorts of cases. How could you use this in M+, though? Well, there are some pulls where you are standing somewhere, and then you're pulling mobs on top of you, and potentially you get some value out of having, wipe recovery in those situations. But more realistically, I think the way you're going to look to abuse this is by either having a group member stay out of combat, or meld and then press this to get you. So either when something goes wrong, somebody melds or vanishes, drops the red button, and then that presses it immediately, and then you have wipe recovery. Or you can use this as part of a skip where you'd all run through and one person either stays out of combat and then drops a red button at the end, right? They're just a rogue, they're in stealth, or they vanish, shadow meld, feign death, anything like that to drop combat, and then they press the red button, and you have a skip set up that way. Is that going to be a huge part of any kind of meta strategies in War Within? Probably not. Invis pots are pretty strong these days. You have a lot of other options, right? Mass Invis, Shroud. Also, just generally the way that count is structured in dungeons, you're usually not getting that much out of a skip. Like it used to be if you would go into a dungeon like Temple of Citralis or Legion, Karazhan or whatever, if you didn't skip, you were going to be 150% count, and that was a disaster. But now you almost always just get to 100% count by holding W through the dungeon. And so there's a little bit less of a huge incentive to do a skip like that. It would mostly be to change a nasty pull into a less nasty pull. But Blizzard's also been better about not having quite as nasty of nasty pulls as they used to. Back like the first time Atal'Dazar came around, there were 2 honor guards that were much nastier mobs in front of Volkal. When they brought it back, they made the honor guards much more fightable, and they also made it so there was only 1 in that pack. So yeah, my guess is this will be a niche kind of item that may have some cool niche, clever use available for it. by high-end teams at a couple points during the expansion, but probably mostly something you don't need to worry about. Up next, we have the consumable duration extension item here, the Pausing Pylon, which disrupts the natural metabolic process of players standing nearby, halting the expiration of flasks, files, and well-fed effects. So you could just put this thing down if you're on a break timer and keep your buffs. Okay. This is the kind of thing where it's neat. Is it neat enough for me to remember to craft it and use it? Probably not. But, it's a cool idea. I like it. I like them making cool stuff. We have a new Wormhole Generator, which will let the user quickly travel to a random location in Khazalgar. Cool. Hopefully this has some, like the Shadowlands one, ability to let you tailor it, let you make it a little bit more precise. The Dragonflight one didn't end up seeing all that much use just because dragon riding around was so fun, and it was also pretty nerfed compared to the Shadowlands version. So this one, I'm fine with it staying pretty niche, though. I remember back in Shadowlands, like, Wormhole Generator it felt mandatory to me. Like, my characters without it felt so much less capable of maneuvering around the world. So I think it's just less important in a world of dragon riding, though. We have a mobile Omni crafting table. So, little known fact about Dragonflight is there's actually several mobile crafting benches that you could have for several different professions, but it looks like they're buffing that and moving it entirely into engineering here. The Portable Profession Possibility Projector, which is a crafting table that can be dropped down, and then only the engineer can choose which type of crafting table it is, and only one type of workbench can be displayed at a time. So you can put it down, you can be like, okay, it's an engineering table, and now it's a blacksmithing table, and now it's an alchemy table. Pretty cool. Pretty rare that you need this. This is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, maybe this is a nice thing to have in raids so that somebody doesn't have to hearth out and craft. But again, this is one of those things where it's like a couple times in the expansion it would maybe be useful. When that comes up, you have to remember that it would be useful and have some on you for it to actually be useful, which basically never happens. We have a new repair bot, the Algari Repair Bot 110, which is a small earthen golem that allows you and your adventurers to repair your equipment. We have auto hammers already. I have a stack of auto hammers in all my bags. You guys should get some as well. It's really, really good. But hopefully this is the same effect. Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe one that would let you sell as well, since it's a golem, but I guess that's probably not realistic. We also have a new mount, the Crowd Pummeler 230, which I don't know if we have a model on that. We do. Okay, pretty cool. Neat looking mount. And we have two toys. The Defective Escape Pod, which lets you seek shelter inside a defective escape pod, which won't let you get very far, but at least you are safe. So, probably not something super useful or anything, but cool. And a lantern that allows you to illuminate your surroundings and calm your spirits, and the heat is just strong enough to also allow for cooking. All right, cool. So not too much new and groundbreaking in here. The most important things are at the top, which is a great thing. The battle res becoming more accessible. Phenomenal. It looks like in War Within, by the way, engineering is going to maintain the engineering helmets that require engineering to use, and the engineering bracers, which don't require engineering to use, both of which can be turbo loaded with one secondary stat. I think that's something that I read somewhere, although I realize now that I'm not as certain as I usually would be before sounding that certain in a video, so maybe double check that before relying on it. I know, of course, it's far enough away that there's not anything to rely on yet. And then the wipe recovery, potentially useful depending on the situation. But yeah, mostly the big news is the B-Res. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you've enjoyed this quick look at the engineering changes in War Within. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.